Give me your best stupid kid story. When I was 3 or 4 I was playing around with a dryer and figured how activate the closed door mechanism while inside. I then climbed in, turned it on with the dryer door still open and found the experience kind of fun. Then not long after mum's friend and her son came around and thinking that being in a dryer seemed fun to me, I thought well maybe I'll show him. Then from what mum and her friend told me they came in less than a minute later and heard a thunk 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 sound coming from the dryer and were horrified to find him in the dryer. To this day I'm known to their family as the boy who stuck our boy in the dryer. Some kid came to our because he had shoved a tube of lipstick and a bottle of Narxma up his rectum. Also, I grew up in Louisiana. Once we went on a field trip to Avery Island to visit the plant where they make Tabasco sauce. One kid tried to dip his finger in one of the vats and fell completely in. A worker grabbed him and threw him under one of the chemical showers. They ended up taking the kid to the hospital. I've never heard anyone scream quite like that kid did. He had Tabasco in his mouth, nose, eyes, ears, privates, etc. You left out the part where the Oompa Loompa sang a song about it. I was a destructive kid, always messing with my toys, smashing my Hot Wheels to make them look like they were in car accidents, taking apart electronic toys to collect the circuit boards. I used to take batteries outside and hit them with a hammer when they were no longer good, and check out the carbon inside. Got it on my hands a few times. One day I hit a 9 volts and the side split open, and a minuscule flick of battery acid hit my face. I don't know how, but it was more itchy than burning and stayed for at least an hour. I stopped hitting batteries after that. When I was younger I put an entire family at risk of fire death by leaving a valve slightly unturned on propane tank near a furnace. Whoops. Side note, Elmer's glue on a 9 volt turns multicolor within hours. Try it. Smashing my Hot Wheels to make them look like they were in car accidents. Glad I'm not the only one who did this as a kid. I was riding my bike around the neighborhood feeling like a boss. I saw a large rock probably about 2 feet high, and starting imagining how cool it would be to ride up to the rock super fast and use it as a ramp. Well, my 10-year-old brain had not quite formed the exact idea of what a ramp is yet. I rode my bike as fast as I could to the rock, hit it, and flew over the handlebars. Bummer. When I was 3 or 4 I went to the grocery store with my mom. She bought me some fruity pebbles and let me eat them while I was riding in the shopping cart. At some point I forgot to withdraw my hand from my mouth before eating a handful of them and bit my finger. I did the same thing when I was in the 1st grade while eating a French fry. My older brother told me that if I believed hard enough, I could run at our camping trailer and God would remove it for me. I hit it and stumbled backwards and lost my faith in God. Smart kid. Most people keep running into the camping trailer over and over, thinking it's their fault for not believing hard enough. Me and my friend found a used needle in a public park, so we decided to stab ourselves with it. I lied and said only my friend did it, so he got stuck with a bunch more needles when he had to get his blood tests done. Winning. WTF. Use needle. Brain allows yourself to get stabbed with it. Get caught. Brain works overtime to come up with way to get out of trouble and blood tests. It usually feels pointless posting in these threads after it's gotten so popular, but heck why not? When I was a kid, me, my brother, and my sister all had a huge water gun fight in our house. Our parents weren't home and they weren't gonna be for a few hours, so we decided whatever. I had to pee halfway through and decided it would be a great idea to pee in one of the leftover water guns. I did and threw it on the bed so I wouldn't accidentally shoot someone with it. Well, the water gun fight was going on for an hour and I was getting thirsty. My gun was empty and I found one on the bed and went ahead and shot some water in my mouth. Of course it was my own pee that I shot in my mouth. Yes, I begriled myself. It was the first, and hopefully last time I ever drank my own pee. TLDR. Having water gun fight with siblings. Better drink my own pee. Does this count? One of my patients at the hospital was a teenager who had decided one evening that she would party very hard with her brother. They both snorted a bunch of coke and shot a bunch of H. In the midst of their debaucherous speedballed revelry they apparently lost track of the fact that they were blood siblings and had sex with each other. When she came down enough to realize what she'd done, she was appropriately devastated and thought it would be best if she killed herself. So she washed a bottle of extra strength Tylenol down with a bottle of NyQuil. Then she really freaked out when she realized this was actually going to kill her. So she called 911. She got treatment in time and ended up surviving. But holy crap. When I was a kid, me and my brother decided to play a nice game of catch the berry. Except the berry was attached to a hook, and the hook was bobbed, and it was traveling away from me at a reasonable pace by my brother pulling it by some fishing line. Needless to say, that wasn't a fun trip to A&E to get the hook pushed through my finger so they could cut the barb off. As a frisky little kid, probably about 6 or 7, who wanted to replicate the pee I had seen on TV, I used to go down to the volleyball court in the apartments I lived in, usually in the morning to afternoon, sculpt breasts with nipples and a vagina bump out of sand, then I would proceed to hump my sculptures to my heart's desire. It was a pretty public place in the complex. When I was 5, I had black hair and, for the most part, I still do today. On this particular day, I discovered a packet of blackhead remover and was, obviously, mortified that my parents had decided they wanted me removed, as it is the solution of all 5-year-olds' problems. I decided running away was my best option. I was found half an hour later hiding behind my parents' car. In the movie theater watching The Godfather with my friends. Yes, I'm that old. In the row behind us there is a maybe 9-year-old kid with his dad. All through the film he keeps saying, "What's happening now, Dad?" We didn't want to laugh at him, but when it got to the scene where the Godfather collapses in his garden and his 2-year-old grandson just keeps playing as if nothing has happened, the kid behind us blurts out, "Stupid kid doesn't know what's going on," and we all burst into laughter. So it's a beat a stupid kid story. I'm sure I'm too late to the party for anyone to see this, but since I have been reminded of the story now, here it is anyways. Long story short, I met this kid named Mikey while I was working at a summer camp. This particular week the campers were special needs kids. Mikey was clearly mentally challenged to some extent, but I am unsure of exactly what he suffered from other than the few things I know. It wasn't Downs, etc. After the little incident that led me to meeting him, different story, I had the pleasure of speaking with his group's leader about him briefly and got a little insight to who he was. A little over a week before Mikey came to camp, he was spending a day with his babysitter caregiver. For the sake of story, we'll call her Mary, a common occurrence for him. That particular day she took Mikey on a zoo trip as it was apparently a favorite place of his. After a couple hours of browsing, Mary had to take a bathroom break and asked Mikey to wait outside by himself for a second while she did again. Not entirely uncommon for him, I was told. Upon returning he was nowhere to be found. Mary began a search of the park which included alerting the staff for assistance. After a solid hour of looking she finally spots him. He is dripping wet from head to toe, shoes, backpack, jeans, you name it, and standing by himself looking anxious. She runs to him, starts to check he is okay, etc. Minus the water and the odd smell, Mikey appears fine, but oddly refuses to speak even a word, including where he had been the whole time. Mary takes notice, but is more happy about getting him back than she is concerned over it. She immediately leaves with him to get him home. By the time Mikey is home he is still fairly damp and has still yet to start talking again despite many attempts to get him to buy Mary. She draws him a hot bath to get him cleaned and warmed and hopes that after he'll be ready to start talking again. After leaving him to start washing after about 10 minutes she returns to check on him. Immediately she is shocked at what she sees. In the tub with Mikey is a full-grown dead penguin. Apparently while at the zoo, Mikey managed to get away from Mary, make it to the penguin habitat, enter their enclosure, coax a penguin into his backpack, and escape without anyone being the wiser. He had a great love for penguins and simply wanted to take one with him. It was unclear if it was the trip home that killed the penguin or perhaps something he did to it. I'm sure he had a bit more closure to the story than this, but I can't recall much after that. TLDR, never underestimate what a special needs kid can do. Holy crap. When I was 4 or so I didn't really comprehend what pain was. In a mission to determine what pain actually felt like, I decided to jump off the 10-foot high treehouse that my father, brother, and I were building. I didn't want to simply jump 10 feet. I wanted to jump 10 feet onto something. I decided a rusty nail sticking straight up below would do the trick, and so it did. Went right in my foot, and out the other side. Needless to say, I understood what pain was after that, but it certainly never stopped me from continuing to do dumb things. I just spent 1/2 hours reading this entire thread. Anyone who reads through the entire thing and finds this post, I bid you a fleeting moment of contact. I made a hat out of chewing gum when I was 5. Needless to say, I ended up needing a haircut the next day to remove the masses of clumped hair and gum from my head. Not mine. When I was a kid, my little brother said he saw Batman in the garage. My mom freaked out, but I thought it was awesome. Elaborate, please. This happened yesterday. We have to watch the news. Well, news round. I don't know why we can't watch normal news. And this girl in front of me asks out loud, is Gaddafi part of the Taliban? This girl is also pregnant. When I was about 4 and my sister 9 my mother went upstairs to shower and told my sister to keep an eye on me and, being a spoiled brat, to give me whatever I wanted. I don't want to come back to him crying. I wait until my mother disappears upstairs. Me. Put me in the dryer. Sis. What? Me. Put me in the dryer. Sis. No. Me. I'm going to cry. Sister puts me in dryer. Me. Close the door. Sis. What? No. Me. I'm going to cry. Sister closes the door. Me. Turn it on. Sis. Honestly, I hardly remember it all nearly 3 decades later, but I can still hear my mother's muffled screams when she came downstairs some time later and asked her where I was as I tumbled around inside. No wonder I don't want children. No stupid kid story can top any of the attempts on that challenge in Legend of the Hidden Temple, which required players to put a golden monkey statue together. Freaking idiots. 3 pieces. Nobody could ever put together 3 freaking pieces. Not my story, but I always laugh at this one. Now, I'm sure many of you have encountered little shoots in supermarkets. Little kids running about and knocking things over, being rude, walking all over their parents. You know the kind. But the worst are the biters. Yes, those little see that feel it is okay to bite you whenever they feel like it. Okay, here's the best part. A biter got me today when I was grocery stopping. He broke the freaking skin, too. This was when the gears started turning. The moment I saw a tiny sprinkle of blood on the little crap's teeth as he was grinning at me like the little seniors, I made my eyes get wide and started screaming crap crap. Now, my good friend, Tom we'll call him, was there too, and he instantly picked up on it. He started shouting frick. Maybe he didn't get it frick. By now, the kid is scared shitless and starts crying. And instantly, Ms. Mom appears out of nowhere and starts getting pissy at us for yelling at her kid. Here's the kicker. I look her straight in the eye and say, "Ma'am, get your son tested as soon as possible. He just bit me and I'm freaking HIV positive." And now there is silence. Not a peep in the entire store. The brat knows he just fricked up big time because his mom isn't defending his butt. She just stares at me wide-eyed. I walk away from them, buy my crap from the wide-eyed cashier, all the while blood is dripping from my calf, making a nice little trail on the floor. And, just as we leave, we start to hear the mother sobbing like the sea she is. I have never felt any more satisfaction than the moment I heard that sob. The only way this could be better is if the guy actually was HIV positive. I'm a terrible person. My girlfriend's 13-year-old daughter was standing at the sink and turning the water on and off. She did this for quite a while, maybe a couple of minutes. I did not bother to ask her what she was doing but did wonder what the heck she was doing. Finally she asks me, "Did we run out of cold water?" I figured out that she was turning the faucet from 90 degrees halfway to 180 degrees, full heat, to get cold water. I just shook my head and turned it to the cold setting. Once my family, my mother, father, older brother and I, were going to go on a trip. I can't remember where and it's somewhat irrelevant. Excited as we were, my brother and I were already sitting in our town and country minivan several minutes before my parents came out. For some reason, We thought it'd be funny to put the van in reverse to confuse my parents. Being 8 at the time, I had no idea that it would automatically back out without them pressing on the gas pedal. So there the van was, off and in reverse. My mom makes it out first and is halfway into the driver's seat as she turns the key in the ignition. The van turns on and starts backing up, but not straight out of the driveway as the tires were turned. The van starts going straight for a large oak tree. My mom jumps out of the vehicle in surprise and didn't know what to do. Luckily my dad was coming out of the house right as this happens and somehow makes a mad dash to the car, jumps in, and brakes just before the van had backed into the tree. I'm officially convinced my dad is a ninja. My friend managed to back down the driveway, miss a bunch of trees and end up in the lake where a passerby rescued the 3 kids before they drowned. I think the oldest was 6. In kindergarten, for reasons long forgotten, I wanted to know what it felt like to lift both feet at the same time. I found that I could get one foot up, but as soon as I started the other foot, the first foot would go back down. This inability to control my knee-jerk responses made me want to lift both feet at once more than ever. I walked around during playtime for a few days lifting one foot, concentrating really hard, and then trying to lift the other foot without success. After a long hard-fought battle, I finally managed it. It hurts your butt. That's what happens. I have a similar urinal-related story. When I was around 3 or 4, I remember my granddad taking me to use the bathroom at a restaurant. After coming back from the toilet, I asked, rather loudly, the whole table, why did granddad pee in the sink? I had never seen a urinal before. To this day, I maintain that this story is the reason why I'm a cubicle pisser. One summer when I was like 6, I was at day camp. There was a kid that was under a table. A camp counselor went to go see him and asked, "Kevin, what are you doing under the table?" To which he responded, "I'm not pooping." In middle school, there was a kid that, for no apparent reason, started painting his hand in rubber cement, making himself a rubber glove. It was weird, but no one said anything, and the teacher didn't catch him. As we walked out of class, he says, "Watch this." He then proceeds to light his hand a lighter. For those too young to know, rubber cement burns nicely. For about a second, he holding it like the Olympic torch, feeling the man. Only then did he realize. You could see the look materialize on his exuberant face. "Oh crap, I just lit myself on fire." So he starts frantically rubbing his hand on his pants, setting his leg on fire. Luckily, we got to him and made him do the stop, drop and roll routine, so it went out before more than minor burns. TL. DR. Dipshit kids painted his hand in rubber cement and lit it on fire. Yeah, you might want to get in there. He's washing his face in a urinal. If I am ever asked the question, that will be my reply no matter what. Not me, but a kid in primary school, Bruce, told me this. When he was 8 years old, when I was 8 I was a man. He saw Superman fly off buildings. So he tried the same. He climbed up to the roof of his house and tried to jump. He broke his back. He's okay. He can walk, run, etc. At 8, he should have known better. I didn't see this, because it was me who did it. I had an obsession with smoke bombs. Bought them by the case. Anyway, one day I was riding my bike and saw a funeral going on. Everyone was leaving the cemetery plot and they just lowered a casket into the ground. I figured, hey, it'd look cool if smoke was coming up out of the ground like it was a portal to heck. So I lit about 10 bombs and threw them in. Smoke starts rising out. Not quite as cool as I thought. Then, I see a flicker. Suddenly a crackle. Turns out the smoke bombs had lit the casket on fire. I ran like heck. And for the down voters out there, I have lived with this for the rest of my life. I actually go there and leave flowers every year on Memorial Day, which I am the only one. Never seen any other flowers, because of how bad I feel about it. For a couple summers I worked at a camp where the kids built forts. They gave the kids massive piles of junk wood, nails, hammers and saws. Combine this with kids' usual lack of forethought and sense of immortality and you can imagine what my life as a counselor was like. They would sharpen 2x2s and throw them like spears. They would hammer nails through boards and try and hit each other. One kid tied a rope to his hammer and was swinging it around like a grappling hook. One kid got hammered into a cage made of pallets and I had to use a pry bar to free him. One kid nearly cut his thumb off with a handsaw. I can only imagine the carnage if they hadn't banned power tools. I was at my dad's farm where grew he up. It is located on the side of a valley. It's an old farm and the field around is rented out to the neighbor farm. But during winter it's one really long hill. So me and my dad made a ski jump down at the farm. He went inside and had work to do. I was all alone in the snow and the hill was 200 meters long. I of course thought that the test jump had to be from the top with my sledge. During the downhill I felt like I did not have enough speed, so I paddled with my foot. My mom was at the kitchen doing the dishwash and had a fair view of the ski jump. Her heart stopped when she saw me flying in midair and disappeared. I face planted in the snow and became unconscious. My dad woke me up and checked my vitals and was sure I didn't have any concussion or similar. I yelled at him to get the tape measure. 4M long jump. Midair for about 4-6 seconds. My greatest and most stupidest achievement. Best part about your story is wondering what would have happened if your dad hadn't run into the kid's mom. Just Walder returned to his beer and let that kid keep scrubbing his face with the urinal cake. We weren't even that young when this happened, maybe 13 or 14. Myself and my friend were filling jam jars with petrol and dropping bangers. You light a fuse and the things explodes. I think they're called firecrackers in America. Into them. It would make a huge explosion and a sort of mushroom cloud. We thought this was brilliant. Anyway, we used all the petrol gasoline in his parents' garage, so we went to my house and decided to steal some more from there. He held the jam jar and I poured the petrol gasoline into it. Some of it spilled over the side of the jam jar and formed into a large drop at the very bottom of the jar. My friend had a cigarette lighter in his hand, and being in a kind of pyromaniac fit to begin with, he decides to ignite the drip of petrol, just for the frick of it. The stupidity of what he'd done dawned on both of us just an instant faster than it took the flame to glide up the side of the jam jar and set its entire contents aflame. In a panic, my friend dropped the jam jar. It smashed on the floor and within a couple of seconds our entire garage was on fire. I grabbed the lawnmower and managed to pull that out of the way before it went up, but pretty much everything else went up. We were stupid. Stupid kids. I once found a caterpillar and decided it could be my new pet. I was worried that my parents would make me get rid of it, so I looked round for a safe place to hide it. After a while I found what to my moronic child mind was the perfect place. The lock on the back door. Yes, I pushed the caterpillar into the lock and stood back and admired my handiwork. It was then that I realized that I couldn't get it out again. Was upset for about an hour until I forgot about it completely. I lived with a girl that was 7 and I was 6. She told me that if I stuck my erect penis in her butt, we'd make babies. So I did this for about a month. After a month, I was on the way to eat dinner with extended family visiting from Florida and my uncle was driving me there. At some point during our conversation, he says, "So filthy Jew, do you know how babies are made?" And as if I were king mythificking scientist, I replied, "You put your dong in the butt." Was at a restaurant with my parents one night. There was this insane 7-year-old, ruining everyone's night by running around and screaming. I remember specifically he jumped on top of the pinball machine as I was playing. I brushed him off dang hard, as I was getting sick of this crap. After about an hour he decides to climb a single-piece carved oak coat rack. He got to the top and was screaming about his conquest, when the entire coat rack toppled over, his head smashing to the floor with a delightful, coconut-like thump. Being in the state of NY, everyone laughed their asses off. So my kid, little Johnny, has a runny nose when he's maybe 5 or 6 years old. Not too uncommon, but after it lasted several weeks, with his sad little blue eyes constantly red and dripping water, I took him in to see a doctor. They claimed it must be allergies and sent us on our way with some allergy meds. Flash forward a few more weeks and I'm thinking whatever he's allergic to must be serious because he's constantly sneezing and snotting and dripping and coughing, and the medicine isn't helping. So I clear the house of anything and everything that could be a potential cause and even start testing his diet to see if it's a food. The doctors are even more perplexed when this does nothing to help. They give him stronger medicine. So several months after the whole ordeal began, I'm looking at his medicine-induced, snot-covered face one day and I realize that his skin is irritated under only the left nostril. I take him back to the doctor with this breaking news and she looks deep into his nose on the left side, much to his distress. She had done this several times before but this time I'm pretty sure she was looking at his brain. She says, "Aha," and grabs a medieval looking torture device that resembled an exaggerated roach clip and shoves it up his nose, much to his even greater distress. She then starts to pull back out and I can see the side of his nose expand bigger than I thought possible, with a slimy wet pop a ginormous 5" by 7" by 2" chunk of couch cushion foam exploded out of his nose and expands to full size, dripping blood and green nose. I was horrified. The doctor said something about not seeing that every day, and little Johnny said, "I thought you'd be mad." I was at the checkout line of a big supermarket. All of a sudden someone behind me rams his shopping cart into my heels. I thought it was an accident so did nothing but it was rammed into my heels again a few seconds later so I turn around and yell "Cut it out." Turns out it was a little brat ramming the cart into my heels that was there with his mom. His mom then yelled at me that I don't have the right to tell her kid what to do and that they're raising him anti-authoritarian, which apparently stands or let him do whatever he wants even if he's hurting people. First the kid stopped, probably from the shock of me yelling at him, but then continued ramming the dang cart into my heels, without his mother doing crap about it, so I took a jar of honey that I was going to purchase and proceeded to empty most of the honey jar over the kid's head, which started yelling like it was dying, and his shocked mother shrieked something like, "How dare you do that to my child?" to which I just responded, "You can't tell me what to do. I was raised anti-authoritarian." Honey flows very slowly, so I'm picturing a 10-20 second awkward moment of you holding the honey over his head while it slowly falls and no one does anything. Probably not the best, but my most recent stupid kid story. I was walking to a football stadium in London. Two little kids, probably no older than 7, were chucking stones to each other across a fairly narrow road with hundreds of people passing. Not a great idea. You don't know fun till you've gotten in a rock fight. I broke my arm and then broke it again while it was in the cast. Yeah, that's how stupid accident prone of a kid I was. Also, swimming in the fountains at a state college that happened to be nearby sure does keep you cool during Arizona summers. Just ignore the security guards. They're not going to do anything. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.